Why do we fall? Not because we're weak, not because we're cursed, not because life has it out for us. We fall because there is something in us that must rise. Every setback, every failure, every heartbreak, it's not a punishment, it's a calling, a sacred initiation into a higher version of yourself. The fall is not the end, it's the forge, the sacred ground where your ego cracks and your soul is invited to emerge. You've been taught to fear failure, to avoid it, to treat it like shame. But the truth, the most powerful men and women in history were forged in failure's fire. Edison failed over 10,000 times to invent the light bulb, and every time he didn't say, "I failed." He said, I found another way that doesn't work. Lincoln lost more elections than most people will ever enter, and still rose to become the president who ended slavery. Walt Disney was told he lacked imagination. His first company went bankrupt. Oprah was fired from her first job in television. Colonel Sanders, he was rejected over 1,000 times before someone took a chance on his chicken recipe. They all fell, but they didn't stay down, because life is not about staying comfortable. It's about growing, and growth only happens through resistance, the same way muscles are built in the gym, the same way a diamond is formed under pressure, the same way gold is refined in fire. You don't rise in spite of your failures. You rise because of them. That heartbreak, it woke you up. That loss, it broke the illusion. That failure, it stripped away what was never real. The false security, the shallow identity, the fragile ego, and invited you to become someone greater. Napoleon Hill once said, "Every adversity, every failure, every heartache carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit." But that seed won't grow unless you water it. You can't just suffer and hope for change. You must decide. Decide that the fall is not your fate, it's your foundation. Decide that you will rise, not just because you want to, but because you must. The world needs people who've been broken and rebuilt, people who've walked through the fire and came out with purpose, people who've seen the bottom and still chose to climb. You must become one of them. So stop asking why it happened to you. Start asking what it's awakening in you. Because every time you fall, the real question isn't, why did this happen? It's, who will I become because of it? The universe is not random. The pain you feel has purpose. The delay has design. That silence, it's shaping your inner voice. That failure, it's making sure you don't rise with weakness still in your foundation. The dream you want, the success, the impact, the legacy, it doesn't belong to the version of you that's soft, scared, addicted to comfort. It belongs to the version of you that is forged, the one who gets back up, who stares pain in the face, who stops running and starts becoming. You don't become great through ease. You become great through endurance. So if you're in the valley, good, that means your mountain is coming. If you're broken, good, that means you've been chosen to rebuild. If you've lost everything, good, that means you're finally ready to find what can't be taken away. The man who has never failed is a man who has never dared. And the man who refuses to rise is the man who chooses mediocrity. Don't be him. You are here for a reason. Not to simply exist, not to blend in, not to drift through life hoping things get better, but to rise, to conquer, to walk into every day with fire in your chest and vision in your eyes, to act even when you're afraid, to believe even when there's no evidence, to build even when the world laughs. You were not made to be average. You were not made to collapse under pressure. You were made to rise again and again until the world can no longer deny who you've become. But to do that, you must stop seeing the fall as failure. The fall is a mirror. It reveals what's weak, what's shallow, what must go. It reveals what you really believe, not what you say, but what you live. When things fall apart, the illusions go with them. And what's left? Only the truth, only the real you, the version of you that doesn't care what they think, the version of you that's not afraid to start again, the version of you that refuses to give up because you've seen too much, learned too much, and been through too much to go back. You are not behind, you are not late, you are right on time. The moment you decide to stop hiding behind fear, You've spent too long negotiating with mediocrity. And every time you try to balance ambition with comfort, you dilute both. Let me be clear. You don't kill the weak version of yourself by being nice to it. You kill it by outgrowing it. You starve it of your attention, your energy, your participation. You stop indulging the thoughts that say, I'm not ready, I'm too tired, maybe tomorrow. And you replace them with a roar, I move now. Because movement is the weapon. Action is the cure. Progress is the scalpel that cuts the old you out of your skin. You cannot wait until you feel strong to start. That's the trap. Strength is earned in motion. Courage is built on the battlefield, not in the comfort of theory. Every time you delay, you're not just wasting time. You are strengthening the grip of the man you say you want to kill. You're letting him grow, letting him whisper, letting him lead. You say you want to be great, but are you willing to bleed for it? Are you willing to be misunderstood, mocked, ignored, even hated? Because the weak version of you needs approval. He craves validation. He fears isolation, discomfort, failure. But the real you, the one buried underneath, he doesn't need the crowd. He doesn't need permission. He only needs clarity. And once he sees the path, he doesn't hesitate. That's the mindset of warriors, of builders, of legends. Think of Carnegie, who grew up in poverty, working in a cotton factory at the age of 13, and still went on to dominate steel and industry because he believed something greater was possible, and refused to live as a product of his surroundings. Think of Theodore Roosevelt, sickly and weak as a child, who transformed his body through relentless training, built his mind through rigorous reading, and rose to lead a nation. None of these men waited to feel ready. They killed the version of themselves that didn't belong on the throne. They trained a different voice to lead, and that's what you must do. Every day you speak to yourself in words no one hears but you, and those words are building your identity. You say, I'm tired, and you train weakness. You say, I don't feel like it, and you teach your body that emotion controls action. But you say, I go anyway, and you become a different beast entirely, because the man who moves without motivation is the man who can't be stopped. He doesn't need hype. He doesn't need a cheerleader. He is the fire. You can feel it right now, can't you? That voice deep in your chest that says, this isn't who I really am. It's not anger. It's awakening. It's not frustration. It's fire. The weak version of you is suffocating under the pressure of the truth. And the truth is this: you were built for more. More discipline, more focus, more power, more leadership, more excellence. You don't need a better plan. You need a stronger decision. One decision to cut off the option of going back. Burn the bridge, burn the boat, burn the comfort. You won't need it where you're going. You're stepping into the version of you that chooses pain when it builds strength, that chooses isolation when it builds focus, that chooses pressure when it reveals greatness. You will kill that weak version of yourself, not with hatred, but with honor, because he served his purpose. He showed you what you're not, and now you rise. The man you were born to be is buried beneath layers of habit, not genetics, not circumstances, habit. And every habit you indulge either sharpens your future or shackles it. When you check your phone instead of checking your purpose, when you scroll instead of study, when you waste time with people who drain you instead of train you, you are training the weaker version of you to win. You're building his house, you're filling his lungs, you're putting food on his table. And then you wonder why he's so strong. But what happens when you start starving him? What happens when you flip the pattern? You begin each day in silence, not noise. You fill your mind with vision, not distraction. You write your plans instead of reacting to everyone else's. You show up whether you feel like it or not. That's when the war starts. And make no mistake, it is a war between the man you are and the man you could be, between the version of you that hesitates and the version that hunts, between the one that craves comfort and the one that was built for conquest. This war won't be won in a single day, but it must be fought every day. Abraham Lincoln once said, discipline is choosing between what you want now and what you want most. Understand that. Tattoo that on your soul. Every time you reach for the easy path, the old you wins. But when you choose the hard road, the early wake up, the extra rep, the tough conversation, the focused hour, the final push. You're planting the flag of your future self because nothing about greatness is convenient. Edison failed 10,000 times to invent the light bulb, not because he loved failure, but because he knew who he was becoming. Disney was fired for lacking imagination before he created a world that would outlive generations. Henry Ford went broke 5 times before he changed the world of transportation. You know what they all had in common? They killed the part of themselves that feared rejection. They murdered the voices that said, "Be realistic." They butchered the weak version before it could bury the genius. And that's exactly what you must do. You don't wait for life to hand you clarity. You demand it from yourself. You don't pray for discipline. You build it with repetition. You don't hope for confidence. You create it by showing up even when you're scared. You kill that weak version by refusing to feed it. Every minute spent doubting, every hour wasted overthinking, every excuse entertained, it all strengthens the enemy within. But every second of focused action, every morning you rise early with fire, every commitment you keep even when no one's watching, that's how you take his power away. The weak version of you is not immortal. He doesn't survive the furnace. He doesn't last in the fight. He doesn't win when you choose discipline over delay. He dies, screaming, every time you rise above your excuses and remind the world, "I am not that man anymore." Let the world question you. Let your friends think you've changed. Let them say, "You're too intense." Good. You were born to be intense. You were born to be unapologetically focused, relentlessly committed, ferociously alive. That weak version of you, he was never meant to survive. He was just the first draft. You are here to write the masterpiece. The moment you decide, truly decide, to kill that version, everything changes, not instantly, not magically, but fundamentally. Because when you burn the bridge back to who you used to be, there is no escape hatch, no soft landing, only forward, only fire. And that fire, that's what forges the real you. Listen carefully. You are not born disciplined. You're not born confident. No one exits the womb with courage tattooed on their heart. These are forged qualities, beaten into shape on the anvil of resistance. Every morning you wake up and drag your body out of bed when you don't feel like it. You swing the hammer. Every time you open your mouth and speak your truth instead of biting your tongue for comfort, you swing the hammer. Every time you show up with purpose when no one's watching, when no one's clapping, when no one's paying, you swing the damn hammer. And eventually that soft, fearful version of you, he stops fighting back. He starves, he shrinks, he dies, but only if you keep swinging. Napoleon Hill said it like this: deliberately seek the company of people who influence you to think and act on building the life you desire. Not the ones who pity your problems, not the ones who tolerate your excuses, the ones who make you ashamed to play small, the ones who demand the strongest version of you to show up every time. If you don't have those people in your life, become one of them. Become so disciplined, so driven, so focused that your very existence becomes a standard others feel obligated to rise to. You see, this is not about motivation. Motivation comes and goes like the weather. What we're talking about here is identity, and identity is built through consistency. You think winners wait to feel like it? No. Winners act and let the feelings follow, because they understand that action doesn't just change circumstances, it rewires belief. If you act like a man on a mission long enough, you become one. And a man on a mission doesn't have time to flirt with the weaker version of himself. He doesn't entertain thoughts of quitting. He doesn't keep company with cowardice. He wakes up with a fire in his chest and a vow in his soul: I will not die like this. I will not leave this world full of potential. I was too lazy, too distracted, too afraid to use. You want freedom? Start with discipline. You want confidence? Keep promises to yourself. You want clarity? Strip away everything that isn't aligned with your purpose. The weak version of you thrives in confusion. He thrives in excuses. He thrives in comfort. Kill his oxygen. Take away his shelter. Stop feeding him with thoughts like, I'm not ready, or what if I fail? You don't rise by avoiding failure. You rise by outlasting it. Let it come. Let it beat on your door like a storm, But you stand in the middle of that storm with a spine of steel and say, I will not bend, I will not bow, I was not made to retreat. This isn't just about becoming better. This is about becoming brutal with yourself. The kind of brutal that says, I don't care what I feel like, I care what I said I'd do. Because every day you act out of discipline instead of emotion, that weak version of you dies another death. And every day you show up stronger, even 1% stronger. You sharpen the weapon that will carve your future. You are not soft clay waiting to be molded. You are the sculptor, the hammer, the chisel, and the masterpiece. But only if you kill the version of you that keeps pretending otherwise. Every man who has ever tasted greatness has first swallowed defeat. But those defeats, they were never the end. They were a message, a mirror, a test. You fall not to be broken, but to rise with something new inside you, something forged in fire, something the comfortable will never understand. The world will lie to you. It will tell you that falling means failure, that mistakes define you, that embarrassment is something to avoid at all costs. But those who create legacies know better. Thomas Edison failed 10,000 times before the light bulb, and every single failure was a brick in the foundation of his invention. Abraham Lincoln lost countless elections before he became the president who held a divided nation together. Every fall carved depth into his resolve. Walt Disney was told he lacked imagination. He was fired, bankrupt, humiliated, but he held on to a dream no one else could see until the world could no longer ignore it. You see, the fall is the gateway, not the grave. And the people who rise from it, they are different. Their belief becomes bulletproof, their hunger becomes holy, and they begin to walk through life like it owes them nothing, but like they owe something to life. When you fall, you are not starting over, you are starting wiser. When you fall, life strips away the excess, the pride, the illusion, the noise, and leaves you face to face with your essence. It's in that rawness, that moment when you feel like nothing, that you are closest to discovering what you actually are. And make no mistake, you are powerful beyond reason. But that power will never awaken inside a comfort zone. It only stirs when you are stretched to your edge, when you feel like giving up, when everything inside you says, this is too much. That is the very moment you must answer back with, then I must grow stronger. Growth demands sacrifice. It demands pain. It demands failure. Not once, not twice, but over and over, until the old version of you is dead and the new one no longer fears death. Because once you stop fearing the fall, they can no longer control you, not with judgment, not with rejection, not with loss, not with fear. The man who has fallen and risen no longer chases approval. He no longer clings to certainty. He walks with the kind of faith that bends reality to his will. And here's the truth no one tells you. Most people never rise because they never really fall. They live at 40% capacity their whole life, never risking, never leaping, never loving fully, never giving their soul to something greater than themselves. They protect themselves from the fall, and in doing so, they reject the greatness waiting on the other side. But not you. You were meant to fall so that you could rise, because every time you get back up, you prove to yourself that you are not finished. Every scar becomes a seal of honor. Every bruise, a badge of transformation. This world does not hand out greatness, it demands it. And the price is falling in front of everyone and still refusing to stay down.